I think Cobra might just have made the best game improvement iron of 2023. Now, I've been here testing for a few days already at Praia del Rey Golf Club out in Portugal. These irons have performed seriously well in terms of both distance but also dispersion. Now, there's a few new tech stories in these Cobra Aerojets that are really going to help with that. The big one is this power bridge on the back, and it's this weighting that connects both the heel and the toe, but it's also separate from the club face. Now, this gives you more MOI by stretching that weight out across the face, but it also increases in weight as you go through the long irons. This is the 5 iron, so it has the heaviest power bridge of the clubs I've got here. And what that means is it can lower the CG and help you with that extra height, as well as spreading the weight across and giving you that more MOI across the club face. Now, more MOI means more forgiveness, so it's just going to help you out more on those off-centre strikes to get that optimal performance. Now, what's interesting with the Aerojet as a game improvement offering is that it's actually quite a lot smaller than some other models we would see in this kind of category. Personally, I really like that. I feel like the smaller sole is a lot easier to control the turf interaction. And I think especially in kind of a longer iron, for me, I don't really like having a thick sole. So seeing something like this, I think is definitely confidence inspiring. But I think it's balanced well with the fact that we have quite a thick top line, so it doesn't look too scary to hit behind the golf ball, which is obviously really important for people who are looking for this kind of golf club. Now, I usually hate hitting 5 iron, but I have really enjoyed testing this out, so let's see if it performs just as well on the golf course as it has done on the practice ground. We've got 175 to the pin, which should be easily doable with this, even though it is a little bit uphill. How good does that sound for a game improvement iron? Really nice control of the ball flight and height, and really nice distance too. So that flown 181, pretty good 123 ball speed, and that's coming off 84.5 club head speed. It just sounds so good. I know Cobra have worked on the polymer that they have in the club heads this year to kind of improve that sound and feel. I think it comes across really nicely. Caught that a little bit thin. Still gone dead straight. Distance 180. Pretty good. Now I think here we have a really good balance of like the height and the spin rate. I would say possibly this isn't flying as high as some of the clubs. I mean, I caught one a little bit thin. My highest shots got up at 85 feet, but we have a really nice level of spin. So kind of the mid 4,000s, that was 4,583. So you're gonna get a good level of control as well as that distance and forgiveness. So that's flown 185 yards, my longest out here, but even when I was on the range I did get a few furthers. I think my longest was up at 189. Obviously on the course you might not swing quite as fast and as freely as you do on the practice ground, but I think overall here, like, I'd be really pleased with those distance numbers. For me to get 180 out of a 5 iron is a very long carry distance, probably like 5 to 6 yards that I would expect of my own. And the fact that I can get some up out at 185 is a big jump in distance. So if you're someone who really does need that extra distance, that is really crucial. I would say for me, like, I'm just really impressed with how forgiving this has been and how tight the dispersion has been. And I would really consider using this in my set, even though the rest of my clubs are completely different. 5 iron is something I don't feel very confident with, so having something like this that I find a lot easier to hit is really important, and it is something I would consider using. Okay, we're about 155 out now. I've got the 7 iron, and it's weird because it just doesn't really feel like a game improvement 7 iron. Like, I would say it's so compact compared to a lot of other models. And yes, there is a slightly thicker top line, but other than that, there's not really that much giveaway about the tech in this club. I mean, even the hosel doesn't have that much offset, which personally for me I like, because I feel like left is more of my miss, which I'd rather not get more over there. Straight at the flag. I think I nearly hold that. That's literally pitched right next to the pin. So this is 155, like considerably uphill, and it's easily getting there, which I think is really good. So yeah, Trackman's basically saying in terms of flat line that carried 165, which is very big for a 7 iron. Like, for a good shot for me with my clubs, I would say 155 is a really good 7 iron, and this is giving me 10 extra yards. with not much bigger size. Yes, there is a bit of a thicker sole and a bit of a thicker top line, but really in terms of compactness, if you're someone who doesn't like that kind of really big golf club but needs more forgiveness and distance, I can't see there being a better option than this. I mean, I caught that slightly thin and it's nearly gone in exactly the same place. That was quick. How good did that sound? Yeah, that's flown up pretty much 167, which is massive for a 7-iron. Now, I think practically for me, these clubs might not work with my gapping because they actually go so far. The 5-iron basically goes as far as my 4 hybrid. And maybe I would want more smaller gaps through the bag. But I think for the majority of golfers who are wanting to improve more and hit it further, these are perfect. I almost feel like I could use a 6-iron from this set as my 5-iron. It would work in my gapping. So that kind of shows you how much further these are going. But overall, just in terms of performance, I've been super impressed with these. That dispersion was good. So far here through the bag, the gapping has been pretty good. So with the Aerojet 5-iron, that was kind of an average 184 yards. Then we dropped down to the 7-iron, it was 164. So kind of almost like 10-yard increments between each club in theory, because obviously that's a 20-yard gap between 2 clubs. So it's going to be interesting to see if that like consistent gapping continues all the way down, because I've got a 9-iron now. It's also going to be interesting to see if it feels like I can control this, given it's like a shorter club, but we're getting quite a lot of ball speed. Just drawing straight into the flag. That's actually spun on the green as well. So it does show you that you're still getting like a decent level of control. People think like as soon as you move to a game improvement club, like you're not going to get any level of control, you can't control the shape, you're not going to get spin. It's just not true at all. I mean, that spun in the low 7,000s to 7,290, it's carried 138. So pretty good distance. I would say maybe not excessively longer than actually the clubs I use now, which are players' distance irons. But maybe I wouldn't expect as much excessive increase in distance in those shorter clubs. Again, we've got like a really nice high control ball flight. These are palming pretty consistently throughout the bag so far. Three of those shots are basically landed on top of each other. Overall, I've just been super impressed with the performance of these. I would say perhaps the average with that 9-iron was a little bit lower than we've seen, so 134. So that's a 30-yard drop off. Would that leave us some big gaps at the bottom of the bag? Potentially. But you could always look and maybe move in the lofts around in the set to make it match up to your club head speed and get the right distance throughout. But overall, I think like there's a really exciting blend here of something that's small and compact and still looks really nice behind the ball, but also that's giving you a lot of extra forgiveness and distance. I would be very surprised if these Aerojets don't perform well for a lot of people this year.